Welcome to Games and Gimmicks, the podcast discussing video games, professional wrestling, and everything in between. And we're back for our part 2 episode, a wrestling weekend as it has been. Luke and the Beanstalk, is here. We're back to talk about WrestleMania 35. So, how do you feel about WrestleMania 35 after the 7.5 hours, 8, somewhere around there?
I was ready for bed, I'll tell you.
I fell asleep.
It was long. It had some amazing moments, though, and
yeah.
And I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's funny because the big consensus I've been reading online from a lot of different people was, a lot of people were like, best WrestleMania I've seen in the last 5 years, maybe 10 years. A lot of people comparing it to the Daniel Bryan WrestleMania.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely better than the Roman Reigns force-fed finishes.
Yes, so. Yeah, 5 straight years of that, and people generally get a little upset with what they're
weary.
seeing. So, WrestleMania, I think overall for me, I thought it was pretty good. I think after talking about the G1, I felt the pacing was really, really good in this show. Few moments where it kind of dragged a little bit, but I think overall most of the matches actually drew my attention, which was surprising, from wrestlers that I haven't been watching enough to really feel like I should be so invested in their stories and stuff, but it was cool. It was cool that I was drawn back into it, and it might have been because of all the good outcomes, but but definitely I was like, oh man, it feels like, well, it was like they did something right. They did everything right, it felt like, in this pay-per-view just about. And it left me feeling good. But yeah, so I don't know. I felt good about the WrestleMania this year. That's a first for me really in a while. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, you got what you want, like what you tuned in for, you got it. So
yeah,
there was probably there was plenty of fat that they could have cut, but
sure.
But for the most part, yeah, you got what you wanted.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about some of these matches here. We're going to just start it off with what we got here. We got the Cruiserweight Championship with Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy, I think, what did he won this title in Australia. That's
right.
Yeah.
That was what?
Super Showdown or something like
summer?
that. Yeah, it might have been the summer.
Man.
Yeah. But I thought that was it was a big moment for Buddy Murphy when he won that title, and I think he's one of those guys where every time I see him, I think, like, is he actually 205 pounds? Like, is he actually cruiserweight?
But then you got
Tony Nese. Yeah, you have Prince of the 8-pack, Tony Nese here. I didn't see this match. What did you think about it? You didn't see it either? Okay, then we're going to skip this match.
Right.
Look, Cruiserweight, I know that people, like, they give them a lot of crap because they're always first. They're always in the pre-show. They get the worst spot usually. They should just be part of the show. Just put them in and then maybe take out one of those grudge match type matches that doesn't need to be in there.
Or at least put them on the B shows,
Right. Do something with that to... Like, they did a lot to run a separate program for the Cruiserweight Classic. We haven't seen that in a while, actually, too. They created a whole division and brought the belt back. And I just feel like there's just so much that they're not doing with highlighting them. 205 Live is there, though. People do watch it.
Yeah. So. But to your point, I think, like, if you look at UFC, any one of their belts can main event.
Yeah.
I think that if there's no reason why you couldn't build a wrestling promotion like that either.
There's nothing that says you couldn't end with a tag match. There's nothing that says you couldn't end with a women's match as you have in this.
Exactly, which we just saw. So
we had next after that, we had that women's battle royale match, which was kind of interesting. I liked how it played out at the end. I thought this gave really good coverage to all the women. A lot of the really great women wrestlers that they have. I was partial to Lana's outfit. That's just all I'll say about it, because she was Wonder Woman. That looked cool. But a lot of big moments to highlight some of these women that hopefully will, some of them might become big names, some of them might not.
Right. But yeah, it was nice to get everybody a payday, and It was pretty uneventful, but that's how battle royals are, you know.
Yeah,
it's not like a Royal Rumble where there's enough space in the ring where you can do a bunch of spots. Like,
does this beg the question as to whether or not WrestleMania even needs a battle royal?
It doesn't need to. It does not need to.
Yeah. Do we really need? We could do Royal Rumble, both have male and female. That's fine. Yep. But WrestleMania, you could cut the fat. This is the big fat part for both the men and the women. So
and they both had the same booking. Yep. Like they both hid outside and come back in.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot. I didn't even realize that until now. Yeah, we had the Michael Che stuff coming up later. But we did have a little bit of Asuka running the gamut here, and she was beating everybody up. We were hoping that she was at least going to get something after dropping the belt to Charlotte, which was kind of crappy. But overall, she got a little bit of a moment in this match, and then we had at the end. There was the kind of tomfoolery going on with Carmella sort of sneaking back in and taking care of Sarah Logan.
Which is, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of Carmella's like in-ring stuff. Mm-hmm. But when I saw Sarah Logan, I was like, no.
Yeah.
This cannot be.
She's not quite there yet, yes, I would say about Sarah Logan. But it was kind of funny to just see how this all played out. We even had some of the old-timers in there, too. We had Mickie James. She's been on the roster for a while, too. But, I don't know. These Battle Royale matches, I think, like, ultimately, they can go by the wayside. We don't need those for WrestleMania. I don't think I needed to watch those things. What does that even do for them in the end? They just won a battle royal at WrestleMania.
I mean, if you look at what it's done for the men, nothing. You know, like what did Cesaro won? Yeah. The first one didn't do anything for him, and I think what they are trying to do with Strowman is keep him relevant or something. But
yeah. And it's hard. It's harder every time you have him just win big things like that, and it's just like, well, this is the only thing he wins apparently.
Yeah, he won that. He won the Saudi Arabia title.
Yeah,
but it never turns into anything.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not. It'd be better to win the Rumble, man. Like, you're gonna
really
win that
save
thing.
your energy.
I like this next match. I thought this was kind of cool. I wasn't like super invested in the Revival versus Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. Obviously, like. There was a lot of stuff about the Revival going into this match, obviously, because of the events of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, and Dash giving a nice KO to the crazy fan.
Yeah, splice the Simpsons bit.
Don't worry, folks. He'll take care of him.
He'll get all the help he needs.
So good. That's the best. It's like maybe one of my favorite Simpsons jokes, but pairing that with wrestling is just so perfect.
Oh, it happens so often.
It does. If you have some dumb person who thinks they can jump a barricade. Going into this match, I think, it was cool. Just a few weeks ago, Revival, or not even that long ago, they won the belts back. They're giving some relevancy to themselves as well as this particular title. And then you obviously have Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder on the other side, which are basically like these guys just lose all the time. That's what they get. Interestingly enough, Kurt Hawkins' losing streak ends at 269. So that's pretty staggering number for one particular person.
It doesn't do a lot for your tag titles.
No, either. I think it's a feel-good story is what they're hopefully going for here.
Right.
Having the WrestleMania moment. Zack Ryder had that. Was the Intercontinental win at WrestleMania?
Right, and that was really something.
That was a good moment. They were trying to throw a little bit more shades to that again. But it was cool to see them win. I think overall it's just kind of. It was good to see that end. It was good to see that thing end. I'm like, nobody should have the losing streak. Nobody should be
that's not
remembered for that. It's not
going to get you over.
Yeah, it's just kind of sucks for him.
Maybe it did. I don't know. Yeah. But I liked the Revival, so I was a little disappointed in this match because it was just so slow to start. And it was like, I was like, oh, I thought these guys were going to like show everything, But it was
cut
fine.
Off the ring type thing that they do, and like really like just beat the crap out of them, and it felt like it moved a little slow to go.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's interesting. I like the Revival too. It's that callback to it's exactly it. The Revival calling back to the stuff that tag teams used to do.
Right.
Which I love it. I've loved them since they've been in NXT and all the tough guy stuff that they're doing. So, but yeah, relevancy for the tag titles is a little hard, I think, in some regards, especially those Raw tag titles, to be honest.
What can you do? I mean,
they're just going to go back to the bar again or something.
That's the thing is, if WWE doesn't really want to invest in the titles and go whole hog, then this is what we're going to keep getting.
Yeah, rematches and stuff like that. But overall, I think that was a little more surprising than I expected out of it. I don't think it was like, barn burner or anything like that.
Right. It was nice little hometown boys winning.
For sure. Next, we're not even going to get into this one, but, basically another battle royale with the men. We got the SNL guys, Michael Che, and I can't remember the other dude. Colin Jost. That's his name.
There he is.
They just did the same thing, but then Braun Strowman threw him out, basically. Yeah. It was like they were going to throw Braun Strowman out, and then he just immediately got rid of the Hardy Boys and then threw those two out. So,
it was just the way to, like, throw back, because WrestleMania is always supposed to have celebrities, it always has.
Yeah,
so that was a way to get it in, at least it was on the pre-show.
Yeah.
But
that's true. People forget that. There's always some type of celebrity guest and everything. So
the funny thing though is when Strowman won and he goes out of the ring and he goes to hoist up that trophy and it's a monster.
It's a big trophy.
You can tell he's struggling with it, but he gets it up and then he sets it down immediately. It's like that gimmick where like he's flipping tow trucks and all this ambulances and stuff, and it's like, man, that's a tough gimmick to follow when you can't pick up a freaking trophy.
The other joke I saw yesterday was it was Braun Strowman struggles to pick up Samoa Joe when he has flipped ambulances and trucks. But it was
suspension
of disbelief.
Yeah, it was an awesome gimmick. I'll give him that.
I'll give him credit for lifting up that trophy there. So then we start the show with what I think was a really, really cool moment.
Big Hogan fan.
Well, no, wait, let me backtrack. I do not support Hulk Hogan. I think, where we started, outside of that weird opening with Alexa Bliss and like her being like, welcome to WrestleMania, and then Hogan comes out and he's like, yeah, WrestleMania, brother.
Crowd going nuts for him.
and then Paul Heyman just walks out and is like, you know what? If we're not going to be on the show last, we're going to be on the show first.
Loved it.
Which is cool. I was like, yep, Paul Heyman just coming out, doing the coolest thing.
And it's so believable. Like, if Lesnar's backstage, he doesn't want to be there.
Yep.
He certainly doesn't want to be there for 7 hours.
Yep.
Like, let me go home.
And talking about, hey, we're going to go to Vegas, playing into the whole MMA thing.
Right.
And it just, this was a cool way to open the show. And then we kind of get to the match, which was... So there's been a lot of commentary about this now after the fact, and maybe hopefully my whole vision is not poisoned on this, but I think it is ultimately what it is, which is that we need to get this title off of Brock Lesnar for a little bit so we can get some more relevancy for some other guys and see what we can do in the future. Because Brock Lesnar's kind of the steamroller. He does his thing and he gets his payday and he kind of goes.
Right.
He's not the working champion. He's not the He's not the reigning defending really, even though they claim that he's not there all the time. So, getting into this, I think some people were getting too bothered with like Seth doing the low blow to win, or just running doing that, and I'm like, because typically they do cast bad guys, and WWE is the guy who's gonna do that, right?
And in wrestling in general, that's very heelish,
like you don't typically do that. But and then I thought about it, I was like, well, Lesnar basically fucked him up the entire time before he even got in the ring, so Lesnar's already cheating to start. He's not even letting his opponent to get in the ring to start. He fucking gives him an F5 outside. Right. He throws him through a table. He throws him through the top of the table.
Beats him for like 5 minutes.
And then we get to the match, and I'm like, okay, well, you know what, Seth, he gets the ability to do that. And then of course we get the what does he even call that move now? Is it just
the curb stomp?
The curb stomp? Yeah. Is that what they call it now?
Yep.
So then we get the typical WWE thing where we gotta do the finisher like 3 times, to really sell. But it is also Brock Lesnar.
And you wouldn't believe it otherwise.
Yes, because he's also been at that point. So I think overall, this did exactly what it needed to do for the heavyweight championship. It did exactly what it needed to do to get the show started off with a bang.
Mm-hmm.
Usually some people don't like that because they feel like people get like real tired afterwards. But hey, it's 7 hours. They're going to get tired anyway. So
I thought this was brilliant. This was really exactly what they should have done. As far as the low blow thing is, we talked about continuity on our last podcast. That's the most continuity WWE's had every time. Like that's his Achilles heel. Is his balls. You know.
Yeah.
So. It's not great as far as like babyface heel stuff, but it does
true. That is
really make sense.
Pretty much is not his actual Achilles heel, right? But it is in fact something that he does. Yeah, like it is interesting. Just thinking about how all this stuff has changed over the years too, as well. Like how we got to Brock Lesnar as a champion and the Universal Champion, and I'm mistaking it. Seth never won this belt before, right? Or did he?
Man, you're asking me. I don't know.
Well, I feel I'm just trying to remember. Maybe or was that Finn Balor? I can't remember, but So like, I think it's just a good sign that they're just kind of moving on from that direction of the Beast and all that stuff. He comes out to Beast Slayer on his backdrop. I think this did what it needed to do for Seth winning the championship.
And honestly, just imagine if this came on in hour 6.5 hours into the show, Seth would have never gotten that reaction.
Yep.
No way. They popped huge for him because his match was the forgotten world title match because everybody wanted to see the women's match and the Daniel Bryan match.
Yep.
And this is how they made it relevant. They threw it on first. Everybody's ready to see wrestling.
Yeah.
And it got over huge. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And honestly, my biggest fear of this match was that Lesnar was going to win, and then they were going to set up Roman to be the one to beat him. It's like...
let's repeat the same thing that we did.
Roman's back, he's over now.
Yeah.
Let's do it. It's like, no.
They got Bruce Pritchard there now. He's at least like talking in Vince's ear and saying, "No, we did that one before. We can't go back to that." So, that was a concern too. Yeah, thinking about what they would do if he didn't win, but I thought it was cool. Just the 3 curb stomps and he just wins, and that was just pretty awesome. So moving on from that particular match, we're gonna go next into the tag matches here. Just looking at this one, Usos winning. It feels like especially with this crowd though, this crowd of competitors. Like look at everybody that's on that list: The Bar, Shinsuke Nakamura, Rusev, Aleister Black, and Ricochet. All people who more or less, even including Sheamus and Cesaro, they could compete on their own, pretty much,
right?
As solo competitors,
certainly
taking on the Usos, which is like the standard of the tag team, division, basically.
Tag team.
Did you watch this match in particular? I feel like I fell out of this one a little bit.
I mean, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed what they did because they kept the action just kind of going, And we skipped the last match, and it was so much more refreshing than the...
Oh, wait, did we skip a match?
Yeah, AJ versus Orton.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did skip that one. So
that's skippable match.
It was.
I was not. I mean, I saw what they were trying to do. Do you remember the crowd was completely distracted by like being blinded by some light?
That's what it was. They were all chanting "Turn the light off." Yeah. Because I was hearing that and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" And then I started seeing some of the photos from certain people that were out there, and they were saying, there was definitely a blinding light.
I think like one half of the ring or one side of the 4 sides that nobody could see anything.
This is a shame that an AJ Styles match was forgettable to me.
It's just, to me, like the second match on the card is almost always your death match. Like it's a spot that nobody really, the crowd is either coming down from the hot opener or like that tends to be the case.
Yeah.
And Orton, in my opinion, is never going to be the guy to be in the second match. Never.
No.
He's never going to wake the crowd up.
No.
So
He's got some snake AR though, you know. He's got that alternative rally, whatever thing that they put up on the backdrop. Right. Looked like a turd. It was weird.
It's better than that like sperm one they had
a few WrestleManias ago. I think he even said that too as well. He's like, yeah, I didn't like that. It's funny that like I'm just looking at these images and I'm like, I remember this match, but again, yeah, it's like. It's kind of Orton, unfortunately. Like AJ can compete with anybody, really, but
and I think it was it was the go home SmackDown. So the SmackDown prior, he hit AJ. AJ was going for the phenomenal forearm, and he hit the RKO.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, that's the spot. So
that's the one.
AJ's winning.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like he's not going to come up with a more creative way to hit the RKO than that.
Jump into my hands. Yes. I don't know. You know,
I appreciate the story they did try to tell, where like AJ would go for the forearm and he would go for the RKO and he'd stop and fall down. And then, but it just
like it was a nice simple defense of that kind of thing. Yeah.
But it was not important.
It was not too good. So let's we talked a little bit. Sorry, with the back button here. I'm like it's going up and then down here. We did talk about this a little bit. You know, I think we made mention of these guys as all being individual competitors on their own regard.
Right.
But yeah, you know, these are all quality tag teams. I don't really know about Ricochet and Aleister Black yet. It's kind of like, you know, what was it like? The superhero and his goth friend or something that.
Yeah, like why? I that's what I want. Is like, why are they a team? You know, like why did this guy decide that he was going to come out of the darkness and hang out with this other dude? You know, like,
that's the polar opposite
it's
of
just
him.
Super bizarre.
Yeah, maybe they're friends. We just don't know. They're telling that on WWE.com. We'll have to find the story here somewhere. I didn't really pay super attention to this match, to be completely honest. The tag title being won by the Usos is not a big surprise to me.
I think they deserved finally to get a main show win.
Yep,
that was cool.
Yeah,
it was a quick, fun, easy to watch match. I thought.
Sure.
But nothing special.
I just want to see more with Nakamura and Rusev. I do like them. I don't know if I like them as a tag team.
It's a weird tag team too.
It's interesting, but. Okay, so we're going to move on from that match to the Falls Count Anywhere match with Shane McMahon versus The Miz. Oh my God, I'm going to let you start off with this because I'm sure you got a lot of thoughts about this. This was a barn burner of a crazy match.
Because, well, this was one of those matches that it felt very Attitude Era, you know? But not overplayed. Like, there's a lot of times that you go back and watch those matches and you're like, okay, geez, they're in the crowd. Oh my gosh. But they were taking some big spills. Shane took one of the craziest bumps I've ever seen to almost no reaction because nobody could see it.
Yeah.
Was when he like dives backwards onto that golf cart and just
fell backwards like 8 feet onto the ground.
His head.
Yep.
It's like
when I saw that at first, I was like, "What the hell?" And then they showed the replay. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like he took, one of the craziest bumps I've ever seen.
It was almost
because he couldn't see where he was landing.
Yeah,
that was the
he
thing.
Just jumped too far, and it makes me wonder, like,
was that planned?
Yeah, was that planned, or was Shane like, "Oh, this is a great idea," you know?
Or like maybe he meant to just land on the top of the golf cart.
I think that was the plan.
Yeah, just hit it and fell off the edge. It
did not work at all.
No, it was very painful. There was a lot of big spot moments where, obviously we have the tension in the story going on where Shane turned heel after they were part of this really crazy tag team in the first place.
Right. The whole story was hilarious.
The dad's
not proud of you unless you're tag champions with Shane McMahon.
Yeah.
Like main event in WrestleMania, but no, it's Shane McMahon is the top.
And then like just this Father George getting in the ring and squaring up and everything was just the best thing to watch.
Oh, and his selling. There was a great spot where he like looks up and then he like puts his head back down. Like, just stay still, bro.
You don't have to do anything. Yeah. I also love that Shane runs with the whole best in the world moniker and just rubs it in everybody's face. And it's just like, I love heel Shane. I like it. It's It's so
to me
good.
that's so petty, you know? Like they can't, like not that like Shane's doing. It's like WWE just cannot let go.
Yeah, no, of course
like
they
just
can't.
let it go.
They cannot.
No,
they just like. But this whole thing was like it was just leading. It was just getting more and more intense. Obviously, crazy spots. We get the father involved. He's trying to square up with Shane. It was just like even the spot where Shane comes in and he's like trying to fix his hands and stuff. It was funny. And then basically Miz just friggin' goes off.
There's the spot right there.
Yeah.
Oh, had a bad burrito.
that's the shot right there. You just cut him out and put him in memes. So yeah, Miz goes completely nuts at this point. I think this was just like the spark for him. He just starts, beating the living crap. They start getting into the crowd after that point. And yeah, we had the golf cart spot, like a lot of other stuff where they're just throwing each other into everything that they can find. And then we get to, obviously the big moment where people are like, well, when's Shane going to jump off the big thing? Like,
right.
Because it's his motif now. That
it's coming. You just don't know where.
It's just like, what are they going to do? And they start climbing this like scaffolding, camera scaffolding, in the middle of the arena. Just crazy stuff, like swinging out swings, kicking Shane in the face. Like... Some of these images, you gotta give WWE credit. Like, man, this stuff that's
a great shot.
Just a beautiful shot here. But yeah, so it started getting intense.
Yes, that last shot of when they're going through and pretty much ruining all of the foreign language commentators' stuff. So it's like, I'm sure that there was one language that they couldn't actually watch the show.
Yeah,
they're just like, I think this is what happened.
We destroyed the international broadcast. Yeah, it's funny because when you watch New Japan pay-per-views, they destroy the American broadcast, it's just like
we're like the Spanish announce
It's a tradition, yeah. It's tradition. Just carrying it on. So yeah, we got to the scaffolding and we get these it's just something bad's gonna happen, something not so good. We get the suplex off the top of the scaffolding, which was pretty insane to watch. I think it was a perfect spot because for one, like instead of like somebody doing an elbow or something like that too, I think there's a little less risk involved in doing something like this.
Yeah.
Because you're both pretty protected so long as they do the move right. And it was just a great ending to this match overall. Like I really loved just that sequence. Because it was just like Miz really should have had it right at that point, right? And then we get to the end and they look over and Shane is right on top after this big spot. And
I actually enjoyed. I know that some people thought it was kind of a weak finish, and
I liked it.
And I think that there might be some truth to that, yeah. But I actually liked it too. I actually like that spot when I've seen it before,
Yeah, like, for sure.
But I remember when they first got up there on the scaffolding, I'm like, oh no, not the Triple H versus Undertaker spot where they fall onto the big comfy mattress.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That was like WrestleMania 2000.
Yeah,
the
one that they didn't talk about when they had their next feud. But yeah,
that was my first WWE pay-per-view.
Really?
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah,
not bad at all.
Good way to start. Yeah.
But I loved the shot that they got of like over the. Well, they got two. One of them was like over the shoulder of the guys where you could see the crowd. Mm-hmm. And then the other one was like from the crowd, kind of like, it almost looked like a picture from like Woodstock 99.
Yeah.
Like with their scaffolds and stuff. It looked awesome.
For sure. Yeah.
And then they did the big suplex. And it was like 8 feet, but it looked like 15, 20 feet.
It looked really high.
It was cool.
Yeah. It was just like, I think... This is the perfect type of grudge match. This is the great example of a grudge match here too. It's like, the friends, they break up and now it's like it's got family involved and it's a simple thing. It's not the Samoa Joe type thing that we had from earlier this year. No. It's a little more intense. But it was still interesting to watch and I liked the ending. I think you're right. It was a good swerve for people right at the end there. So.
And Shane is a heel.
Yeah.
So
So it's good.
So good.
It makes it even better. Yeah. So next we had the Women's Tag Team Championship match, the Fatal 4-Way with the Iconics, the Boston Hug Connection, Beth Phoenix, Natalya, and the team of Nia Jax and Tamina. I thought this was pretty good. I think, again, giving a little relevancy to some of these women to do some stuff and not have to be in the main event picture. So it's a good thing. I think having Bayley and Sasha as the first champs was a good choice. Just kind of give a little prestige. Like, hey, people really like these two. But ultimately getting the titles off of them frees them up for probably that shake-up thing coming up soon and maybe some stuff that they're planning on doing. I've heard rumors that they're going to make Bayley a heel, which would be really cool.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I think she could play it. I think she could do it.
Probably. I think both of these girls, like, they haven't done the most they could with them to get the best out of their character. So it's unfortunate that they might be switching them up, but it's at this point they're so stale that they kind of, especially Bayley, she really needs it.
The gimmick is starting to wear off now. People still like her, and people still like these two together. They're great friends and stuff. So I think even with this change, I liked a lot of the stuff that was going on in this match though, because the Beth Phoenix and Natalya stuff, like Beth Phoenix. Crazy. She hasn't been in the ring for a while there too, but
she did look like she hasn't really missed a step.
Yeah.
This was probably one of the matches I couldn't connect with. It didn't really, and the Iconics for me, they're not. I love the gimmick.
Yeah.
And I love I think there's so much you can do with them, but I don't think that they're top.
Yeah, they're not super talented wrestlers, is what I would say too.
Yeah, and I think that all these women aren't great. They don't make great tag teams. The double team moves aren't smooth.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of issues with that. And
it's we're in the early days of this division as far as what they created. They're all individual wrestlers, but there's a lot of stuff about continuity. We've talked about continuity, but even just working together with your teammates to do a move that looks like you really perfected that move together.
Yes, exactly.
It's hard to make it seem like that sometimes. So yeah, the only thing I guess maybe what I really liked was just the ending, because I thought it was
nice,
a nice little okay, yeah, that's perfect. Blind tags and switch out partners after the big move and you get your
very
win.
Heelish, quick, smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me is I don't know why I feel compelled to mention this, but I can't stand Tamina and Nia Jax. I especially don't like Nia Jax. I'm not a fan.
I think we've had this conversation off podcast before, but I do remember you telling me you don't.
It drives me crazy. I don't know. Well, I think what bothers me is she's a monster, but we're not allowed to treat her like a monster,
or play into that, or
because
talk about
it's body shaming or something.
Sure.
It's so we have to pretend that she's this gorgeous It's she's Andre the Giant with a Kendall Jenner wig. Come on. Yeah. Just let her be a monster.
And in fact, the way that, and it's funny because I didn't even know until recently that she wasn't this big before. She was a fitness model for a number of years, and then probably was just hey, I just don't want to really do that shit anymore. So does that translate into can we not talk about that stuff? It's it's a good question, but
I'm not saying
we do that with all the male competitors though too.
I'm not saying point fingers at her or make fun of her, but look at some of your monsters. We make mention
of it.
Yeah, and look at Samoa Joe. No one's ha, look at that fatty. They're oh man, this guy's a monster.
Yep. Well, unless it's Vince McMahon. Right. Who originally said he didn't want to hire him because of his weight, which is such a shitty thing to do, because it's Samoa Joe, dude. It's one of the greatest. But no, I feel that same. I felt more about her as being very green, pushed into the limelight really quick, and because she is who she is. She's a dominant looking person,
right? And
she fits the character. But we can't. Yeah, I understand. We can't talk about that stuff, and it's kind of so
what bothers me about it is it's wrestling, because that's always been a part of wrestling. You kind of play towards stereotypical things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can do it carefully, but
sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, remember Meltzer's comments about Peyton Royce and how he got in trouble for that too. So.
Yeah, that was a big old thing.
Yeah. So yeah, this was an interesting thing. It's good to get the titles off of Bayley and Sasha, and I think at least give the Iconics a little bit of something for right now. But
also one quick thing,
too much.
As far as the women's division, you can't cry after every match because like this was legitimate. Like I felt like, oh, this is a big moment and it means something to him. But like, you can't cry after every match because then these things don't feel that big. You know, like Sasha cries after everything. Yeah, they did that, and it's like,
and they did that after winning those first tag titles.
Yeah,
so
it's like, it's like okay.
Like they got
together.
I see what you're saying. Like you kind of got to build, like you got to make sure that these characters are protected, and like by, they get a little bit of freedom sometimes here too, but sometimes that works actively against them in terms of what the story they're trying to tell. Sure. Like if they're heels, they're crying, so it's okay. I get it. I totally get it. Like especially for the Iconics at this point to win a title, it's a big deal for them. So let them cry. It's cool.
It's just like, can you imagine like.
If that happened every single time.
If Drew McIntyre was crying after he lost, like, get it together, dude.
Like, dude, suck it up. Get to the back already. Now, this is the thing I really... God.
That's why we showed up here.
Oh, this is what we came here for, right? This is really what it was all about. This was the real main event. Okay, actually, no. Okay, there were two main events.
Yeah,
there were two big main events to me.
Definitely.
I wouldn't even... Look... It was just because of the quickness of the Seth one, I'd immediately discount that, but it had its place. This was just such a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, and it was, man, it's impossible to follow because the crowd, it was one of those moments in wrestling that's like, you don't see.
Yeah.
And like you saw it with Daniel Bryan, but it's so
rare.
WrestleMania 30, but yeah, it's like genuine.
Yep.
Like the people love him so much.
Yep.
And it meant so much to everybody and his tag partners, and they constantly put him over, and so this match was put together amazingly, just brilliant. And Daniel Bryan is like the perfect. Well, he's my favorite wrestler. He's like amazing at putting together a match. And
think about this transition to this heel that he made that made people really hate him.
It's so genius.
It was good. It was just the whole. I'm gonna get myself a hemp belt and make it out of wood and put earth stones in it. Like that immediately pissed people off. And then him going around to concession stands and talking about the pork that people are eating,
like stepping on the burger and stuff. Like, and the thing is, there's an endless supply of those like self-righteous, this is why the world's going to crap stuff that you could use.
Yep.
It's brilliant.
Yep. It was beautiful. And just the build up to all this, the talk about Kofi Kingston as 11 years with the company, he's won all these different things in different areas, but he's never had his big title shot, singles match basically for all that time. And it's just having this moment, especially with that huge of a crowd, and just the match was super good too. Like everything about it was well paced, and I just liked how everything it just culminated. It's like when they talk about popping for a match, this is the one.
Man. Like I thought people were gonna just start like hugging everybody, just hugging and like.
It was just like a brotherly love,
babies and stuff, like it was. Everybody was feeling it.
Yep,
it was awesome. I can't recommend this this match enough. It's like one of those that you'll keep going back to and watching, and like still, like it'll give you goosebumps when you watch it again.
Yeah,
loved it.
I was gonna not say this because it was so stupid. Excuse me. Superstar Billy Graham came out and said to Kofi Kingston that he needs to start taking roids, which is like it's like the most insane, crazy old person thing to say to somebody who really put in the work, did his time, did all of the stuff that really WWE's asked of him,
right?
And they rewarded him. Look, that's a rare thing to happen. That you've provided the WWE with a lot of great moments. say what you will about the Royal Rumble things where he had to come up with every year some innovative way of not being
Still, it
out.
kept him relevant.
It was still keeping him relevant, and then, pairing him with these guys in the New Day, and that made him... It did make him more relevant, and it made them more enjoyable. And, I remember the early days of the New Day, and people just shitting all over that.
It was a gimmick that was bound to die, and they made it. They just turned it into gold, you know? It was amazing.
And it's just everybody, they played the parts that they needed in this, and it's just great to see somebody get rewarded. And like you said too, Xavier Woods, he's been I think there was a quote that I read or something him back in 2015, and he was just saying my goal number one is just to get Kofi to win the championship.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it doesn't matter. We're just in this together, and we're gonna do it. And he did it, and he helped him win the championship. It's a crazy thing to think, because and it's also this juxtaposition, right? Daniel Bryan was that character 5 or 6 years ago.
Exactly.
And he was in that place, and now he's the heel, and he's a really good heel. And it's just that's when storytelling at WWE draws me back in, is when there's again, like you said, they're going to hire a continuity artist, so maybe this might happen.
Don't watch week to week. Just watch the pay-per-views. They got great promo package people, but don't, because week to week you're like, why is Vince McMahon?
What the hell is going on?
Why does he like Daniel Bryan all of a sudden? They're total opposites.
There was something recently I saw, and I didn't even watch the Raw after Mania, but there was a puppet or something in the Raw after Mania, and I don't want to even know what the fuck that thing is about.
This is bad.
It looked like a bird puppet, and it was very concerning as to me, why is this on this program? But yeah, it's the day-to-day stuff, watching the Monday, Tuesday. Hey, maybe that might change with the Fox deal coming up here. So
maybe.
Might change it a little bit.
We'll see.
Yes, if we had to say anything to you folks out there, just stop right now, listening to our podcast, get your WWE on, and watch that match, because that was a fantastic match, one for the ages.
Amazing.
Just amazing. So, and
also, I would love, I don't know if it's already not possible, but I would love to see a backstage segment with the New Day, they drop the hemp belt into a trash can and it's burning, and it's that 70s show,
everybody around them
a little bit, acting like they're a little bit stoned, but
that would be good. Yeah,
just playing towards it.
I think that'd be a good joke. Yeah, that'd be a nice way to send off that belt too. Yeah. So next up we had Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio, who is clearly very injured.
This sums up Rey Mysterio's career in WWE now. It's
as of late, right? And
it is true, he was hurt.
As Mysterio as a Marvel character, I would think also he dies a lot. So for this too,
it was very fitting.
Yeah, it was very fitting. But it was yeah. They were talking a lot about this. They were like, oh, this match may not happen and everything. And you know what? I'm glad it went down the way that it did, because it makes Joe look even more like a badass. Ray gets to go recuperate, doesn't hopefully re-injure his ankle anymore as a result of doing this. And yeah, did its part.
It's fine.
There's very few instances where a squash match seems okay for it to be in there, because most of the time it's what unless I already like that person, it's not really that satisfying.
Sure.
But considering they did what they could with the slot that they had, and they just kind of moved everything on. So,
and honestly, at this point in the show, I didn't want to see a long match. No. And they could have had a great match, but it's cut what you can.
Well, speaking of which, do we want to talk about Roman Reigns defeating Drew McIntyre? Because I also don't.
Nobody cared about it. Nobody did.
He's got some bagpipes though, and some drums, and that's cool.
They just didn't have. There was no reason for this match.
Did you notice that the sound guy turned down the volume of the crowd, even though they're not booing him anymore?
Yeah, they still I think they're gonna. There were some boos, but not. It wasn't this overwhelming.
Yeah, it's not like chorus like it has been over the years. Yeah, I was like, that guy's just got that itchy dial finger.
It's so funny.
Oh God, sorry. But yeah, we won't talk really much about this one. I think it's just let's get Roman a little bit back on top. He's come back. So yeah, as much as I would like to spend a lot of time on the Roman Reigns stuff, we'll jump to something else. You might even notice that our clothes are different. That's because through the power of editing, no one will know how long it actually took us to do this. So yeah, let's talk about the holds barred match, Triple H versus Batista. Excuse me. So what did you think about that, Luke? It was kind of a crazy match.
It was kind of what I expected. I mean, I was really looking forward to this match.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I mean, it's Batista coming back. He's like a big star now, a big movie star.
Sure.
And you know that like these guys kind of have the same style as far as like, okay, we're going to brawl, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to forget to mention Batista's like tripping
on
the way into the ring. Like, what a way to go out, like, and his music's going to it. He's like, oh God, I stumble for miles. It's just hilarious.
It's like, and that song, like, I was watching a lot of like the Xavier Woods content about like
isn't that amazing?
Just, yeah.
So awesome.
The Batista theme is, as much as I didn't really gravitate to Batista as far as a wrestler, I liked during like the evolution and all that stuff. I appreciate so much I appreciate him as an entertainer, even as a wrestler.
Yeah, and I like back in the day during Evolution and stuff, I was a huge mark for Batista. I went to a house show in like I think it was out in like Maryland or something. And it was at a baseball stadium, and it rained, and we didn't get to see it. But he came out and like said hi to all the fans and stuff, cool. And I was like, "Oh, Batista!"
I've heard, and seen obviously through his own social media and stuff. He's just a stand-up guy as far as everything goes. So, but yeah, this was a clash of the WWE Classic Titans, I guess, as far as that, and
right.
A bygone era as it has been.
It really is.
We had Triple H coming out in the Mad Max stuff. How'd you feel about that design?
It was interesting. Like the graphics themselves were, they weren't spectacular.
Sure.
And then he comes out in this like little buggy, like go-kart fucking thing. It was so funny because like all of his exhaust pipes were like wobbly and stuff. I appreciate the effort. I really do. But
they just kind of just soldered it on as quickly or welded it on as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
Get it to look like a, like apocalyptic car and everything. It's cool. It goes with the aesthetic of the big screen. And I'll make a good point about this too. Like, they had a lot of pyro at this show.
They went for it.
Which is, if you're gonna go ahead and do that in a big stadium, go ahead and do it here at WrestleMania.
It's pretty awesome when they do the fireworks like above the stadium and stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, there was a lot of good pyro effects for a lot of different people. So, but yeah, Triple H coming out. He is the game. He is the cerebral assassin, as I can't say it. And he's still wrestling. He's still wrestling at this point. It's nice to see that he does come out and everything, but I still feel like, we need to get to that point where he's just kind of managing everything, getting things going with WWE for the future and less of a character ultimately.
Right. I think, I don't know if we'll ever get rid of him as a character.
No.
The McMahons are like the
he's
stars
part of
the show, and he's
thing.
part of them.
Yeah.
But it'll be nice when he finally has like his farewell match.
Sure.
I'll look forward to that. I enjoy, because you're either going to get like a pretty decent match, or you're going to get like a pretty funny, like with the Undertaker stuff this past year, hilarious.
Sure.
Bad.
Just and or even just the quick squash Cena that you're talking about, or
which
like WrestleMania last year, you mean? Or
the Saudi Arabia stuff, Australia stuff,
just the random, like, okay, let's give him some more money,
right? And like everybody's out of shape, nobody really cares,
that Super Showdown thing. I watched it. Eric did not. Oh man, you've never heard me like shit on a pay-per-view like I have on that one, but only that part, because it was like, I was like, they don't really give a shit. I admire them that they didn't really give a shit, and they were just gonna do it anyways. But it's also like, oh man, like there's so many other people they could put there instead of, like, I get I get the draw power of those guys, so I understand it still exists.
I mean, it was definitely a money grab kind of thing, but the moments in it were so funny. And I don't want to get too far off into like going through that match, but some of the moments like just had me in tears laughing. So
it's a different experience seeing them at this point in time in their careers, and I think the cool thing is, at least in this particular match, I think it allowed them to do a lot of different stuff. Obviously whenever you do like a street fight or anything like that, it's always going to be like we could try some different stuff that maybe we wouldn't normally do in a match. So a lot of the kind of outside stuff, the interference with all the toolbox and everything there too. Right. A lot of this was really cool. I honestly winced at this moment when he hit him with the chain, because it just sounded bad, even though he's probably mostly hitting that table.
Yeah, he
right
hit
there.
The table first, but it just looked really good, and everything he did with the tools. And nobody's going to get hurt. You don't have to take a bump. It's just these little easy things to do.
Sure.
But it gets the pop. The crowd goes crazy for it. They're oohing and on. And these kind of matches play so much to Triple H's strengths, because I don't remember the last Triple H match that like didn't end up outside the ring within under a minute.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Now he's gonna play dirty. We know we know the themes of Triple H now at this point, as far as being like this corporate guy, but he also turns on the mean side and becomes kind of visceral, and this is as much as this is all like him putting the tool flat and just stepping on it and not actually stepping on it the way that you would actually break somebody's fingers.
Sure,
it's still pretty cool to see. Like the illusion is enough that I'm like, I wouldn't want my fingers in between that. Basically.
I appreciate the effort for some of these
even
things.
just like the possibility that you could fuck up and like actually hurt somebody is enough for me in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it could have been pretty nasty.
Yeah. So I think they kind of turned it up a notch. They kept going, and obviously we had the spot with the needle nose and the nose ring in particular, and
that's a brilliant spot. I can't believe no one's ever done that before. Yeah. And I mean, I guess I said the same thing with the Randy Orton Jeff Hardy thing with the earring. It's just one of those things. Is like, it's so simple and it's gonna get a reaction.
When I saw that, I definitely remember being like, why has no one done this before? Like, obviously there's people who have gauges and stuff in their ears and they stretch out their ears. Like, why not use that in wrestling? Like, use that to the crowd's effect. So yeah, it was cool to see this and a little bit of blood, and he even held up the nose ring, and that was pretty cool. I liked it.
I think that the one thing, the match definitely dragged a bit. They could have tightened it up a little bit, and you could tell that Triple H was really leading this thing. Like Batista, it was pretty obvious he hadn't worked a match in a while, but it wasn't so obvious that he was making big mistakes and things like that.
Yeah. Other than his own entrance.
I know, poor guy.
I think, and it sucks like that's the thing. He recovered quickly enough that he didn't fall on his face or anything like that. But still, like, your last match he did.
If you notice, he did go outside of the ring and come back in.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what the DVD's going to show.
That's right.
He never tripped.
Oh man, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, don't pull like the Scott Steiner. Remember him jumping from the apron? Yeah.
And then Bill Goldberg at WrestleMania when he slipped. That didn't make the DVD.
No, it didn't. Yeah, the magic of editing, folks. Even this podcast itself.
But, yeah, exactly. We can't get on too bad, can
we? So yeah, I enjoyed a lot of the big spots. I agree. Definitely, this thing kind of went on, dragged a little bit after we had some of those kind of like tool manipulation spots and all that stuff. But ultimately, I think it was for the best for both of them. As far as Dave Batista's career, he's announced that he's retired after this. I think going out on a pretty big note. You can't blame him for trying in this particular match. But you're going up against Triple H, unfortunately. So.
Right. And I would say that he had the best retirement match on this show.
Yeah, for sure. So. Yeah, compared to what we're gonna talk about coming up here. So we'll kind of jump back here. We're gonna talk about the next set of matches here, and that was Angle's farewell match with Baron Corbin.
Speaking of the devil here.
There was no amount of hatred towards Baron Corbin. There's just too much of it. Well deserved, but also like considering what they possibly could have done with Cena. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's not in condition to wrestle or anything right now. But they obviously had Cena come out as Thugonomics, and then they got right to this, which was it was just like kind of like, okay, so that was the like almost like one swerve of the night of like, hey fans, we're gonna give you everything you want. Here's the one thing we're not gonna give you, apparently. Yeah. So
then they like taunted us with Cena, But honestly, it could have been anybody. Like I can imagine, I can't think of anybody else that would have been a worse choice than Corbin.
Yeah,
like look at him.
You talked to. I think look at the clothes.
Right, exactly. He looks like he is one of the members, like setting up catering.
Yep.
He looks terrible. What is with the like? I think there's certain guys with like the gimmick. It makes sense. I guess like I feel like some of the guys in OVE that are in Impact Wrestling now, they dress like that. And I'm like, I'm okay with it. It's whatever. But
in the ring, though, I
still don't like it.
It's distracting a little bit.
And his gimmick, he's done. He's not that guy anymore.
No.
So
it's weird. Yeah, he's not the GM anymore. So it doesn't make sense for him to continue wearing it. He really. Like, I will say this much, the moment he decided to shave his head, I was like, good job, man. Because, like, that hair wasn't looking too great.
It needed to go. But this is a pet peeve of mine, a little one. It's like, if you're going to shave your head, do a hair match or hair versus mask.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Come on,
utilize
man.
it.
This is wrestling.
Yeah, utilize it.
Don't waste it.
Yeah, make that make that a part of the match. That would be really cool, actually. That would have been cool with Corbin, actually. But yeah, like Baron Corbin, not super exciting. Everybody's super, excited to see Kurt. Kurt obviously is wrestling hurt. He really shouldn't probably even have been wrestling up to WrestleMania.
He's done,
and it's just that's what it is. I think he knows it. Obviously, he wouldn't have even. Sometimes I do think that like part of like going into the Hall of Fame and stuff, and there's like there's a nature that they want to be really, really like good up to that point in their lives, like settled, that they can retire and everything, and then you get into the Hall of Fame, and then you get like these moments like this. They come to WrestleMania and do their farewell match.
Right.
So this is bound to happen, but I feel like that time in between him coming back to the WWE and now was like, there wasn't much in there. There was like the Shield comeback, and there was some cool, nice moments.
I wasn't in. I don't think that they utilized him. There were some cool moments, but I didn't think that they did what they should have with him. I think that like there's dream matches that they left on the table.
Sure.
Like Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
Like the two best technical guys.
I wanted to see more Samoa Joe and him at some point.
Right. I mean, there was the match on Raw or SmackDown, but I don't know. There might have been interference. I didn't watch it, but at this point in his career, it's
hard to want to relive those moments too, because he's not the same person anymore too. Like like physically he can't do all the stuff that he did even in TNA a few years ago. So.
Right, and it's been a rough few years. Like it wasn't that long ago where you're like, man, he can still do it, and it's now you're watching like, no, that's it. That's the end.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping that he's done. Like he won't feel the need to wrestle again, anywhere else.
Yep. And the way that he taught, I think he's spoke of like coming back to WWE and changing a lot of things in his life and getting to this point. It's an important moment nonetheless. So for anyone out there, this isn't something really to skip. You still want to see it to see his last match, but yeah, it wasn't really a lot of memorable stuff.
No, it's definitely forgettable.
Yeah.
And,
so,
not not a big fan of this one.
Unfortunate, but farewell to Kurt. We'll probably still see him around in the WWE. So
I did love that when he was like, "I want to hear you say, chant you suck."
Yeah.
And then they show the guy in the front with the "you never sucked." That was great.
It's a good moment. Great moment. Yeah, that somebody was thinking of that. Great sign. Got to thank that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll move on to. We're going to talk quickly about this particular match because we don't really probably have much to say about it. But the Intercontinental Championship match between the Demon Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley, and Finn Balor coming out top here. So yeah, I wasn't excited about this. The Intercontinental title has sort of lost a little bit of luster over the last year or two. I think there was some prominence with it even when Balor had it, but
it definitely feels like a secondary kind of. I mean, when Miz had it had some
deal.
meaning, but now it's just like these guys that clearly don't have anything better to do.
Yeah.
And you can see that by the way they're booking Lashley. Like this week you're with, what's his name, Leo Rush. Next week you break up. No, you're back together. Yep. It's like you don't really know what you want to do.
Exactly, and like I think Lashley is a powerful contender as far as a wrestler. I think he has a lot of capability. I don't know much about him as far as him and his capability of like talking off the cuff, because it just doesn't. Every time he talks, it's like, oh man, like he reminds you why you didn't like him at first. Yeah. But then he gets in the ring and he does some cool power moves and stuff, and you're like, all right, that's fine. But even if on the outside, I would always pick Finn Balor as far as this match goes, like, because I just like him a little bit more as far as wrestler.
He's far more talented, more well-rounded, I should say. And Bobby Lashley, he's one of those guys that he looks like $1 million. Like he looks amazing. He looks like a guy that should be the guy.
Exactly.
He looks like Lesnar.
Yeah.
But he's one of those guys.
It's like, why hasn't it happened? Like he's had like just these weird moments of storylines where like Bobby Lashley's sisters, and like the whole like introduction of him to start was just like, why? Like, why did they do that?
Oh yeah. I mean, he had no chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's one of those guys that if you want him to be a top guy, you have to protect him. You have to give him a mouthpiece. They've done that with Leo Rush. I like that. Keep them together, in my opinion. But he's one of those guys that you can get a lot out of on like a B show. Maybe you can main event him. In my opinion, when they came in from TNA, they should have put him up against Brock immediately as these two MMA guys. And if it didn't work, well, then it didn't work.
Yeah, just don't don't necessarily sell that at WrestleMania, because they've done that kind of thing and it didn't work. But like you could put it on a less than pay-per-view that somebody wouldn't normally watch or something.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly. And people would tune into that. You could play up their MMA backgrounds, the fact that they're both like legitimate tough guys.
Yeah, super jacked dudes. Right. Like it could play pretty well. And like they didn't really do much, and now we're kind of like, what do we do with getting the Intercontinental title back to prominence, and like making it a big deal so that way they can use it as a jumping off point, or did, like you said, did a lot for Miz and credibility and making him important, and he did a lot for that belt at that time. Yeah. But I think this is the jumping off point for Finn, hopefully with what we saw earlier in the show with Seth winning, that we get the rematch for the Universal title. That'd be kind of cool. I'd be willing to watch that again. So hopefully it doesn't get injured with any of Seth's moves that people don't like. But yeah, this was what it was. I think ultimately this was just hopefully get people where they need to be, and maybe we roundabout get to Lashley again, in the future here. Nothing that says that things don't change in the coming year. So.
And as far as like Balor and the Demon, I think that one thing that would be nice is if they use the Demon as more of a really like a blood feud. Like it only comes out when he hates you so much that he can't contain it. And not to be telling people in the weeks coming up to the pay-per-view, like, oh, I'm going to be the demon. You better watch out. The demon's coming.
Exactly.
Like, just show up, you know?
Yes. And and surprise us, the crowd and the viewer, because we didn't expect that. But also, you're just doing some decent foreshadowing is all you're doing.
Right. Tell us without telling us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're subtly giving us a clue that you're going to be the demon at the next pay-per-view. But, the thing is about, like, it's the smart markiness of everybody these days with wrestling is, like, they want to just, like, diminish something so quickly, and then, like, but this is part of the character of Finn Balor and the thing that he brings to WWE, and I think it's cool, but you're right, it has to be brought at the right time and in a story. So but yeah, so we won't spend any more time on this one, but Finn Balor beats Bobby Lashley for the Intercontinental Championship, so that might be a good thing for him overall. We're going to go lastly into the big main event, the big deal. First time women are main eventing WrestleMania, and we have the winner takes all triple threat match for the Raw and SmackDown's women's championships. I really did love this match. I thought it was had all the great pomp and circumstance of a main event, had all the great openings, and overall, I think it did what most men's matches do as far as the big story of the year for WWE. So this was the big story,
Oh yeah, and that was the right choice to go on last.
Sure.
I feel bad that they had the crowd was so like there's nothing you can do for a crowd after 7 hours and after 3 days of wrestling.
Yep.
They were worn out, and they did their best to get up for this match and get excited. But there was times when you could tell that they were tired and it dragged a little bit.
Yep.
But again, like I said, you can't expect anybody to be. I couldn't do it after 7 hours. It's crazy.
And the thing is for me, as somebody who was like, I don't know if I really want to get a WWE subscription just to watch this, and then okay, it's $1. Well, fine, I'll watch it. And then just to give you a perspective of how I was watching it, it's sort of just on. Whether or not I'm actually fully paying attention to it during that 7 hours, it's super hard to want to watch it constantly.
Right.
And even from people that I've seen reporting about wrestling and everything that happened this weekend, they're just like, I haven't been looking at anything else but wrestling for 4 days, and it's a lot to take in. It's a lot of stimuli, and as far as this point, everybody was tired and sort of ready to go. Unfortunately, this didn't get on until about midnight, I want to say.
Yeah, it was roughly midnight.
Yeah, which
is it's just not accessible to people who aren't diehard wrestling fans, and even us, we're like, ooh, I gotta go to bed.
Yep.
But beyond that, they did have the great, the very exciting wrestling intros. We got Joan Jett, which is probably the best musical performance at a professional wrestling show ever.
I agree. Yeah.
I thought she did amazing. And I felt bad for her, too, because she was playing in Ronda, who's the heel. So she got booed.
Sure.
So she probably was like, what the hell?
Yeah, what the hell? I would say next to this, one moment for me is the Nakamura WrestleMania one. I think
with the violin.
Yeah, with the violin a few years ago. There's some great moments with music when they do it right at this big event. And definitely with the Charlotte Flair opening too as well, with her helicopter being helicoptered in,
right.
Just a cool moment to make it I saw somebody tweeting, they're like, we can see her helicopter from up there, whether or not it was actually her doing that.
I think there was probably a cut in there somewhere, but
probably, but they had the helicopters come over before, and so they had these kind of these cool moments in the beginning, and I like that moment. It just added a little bit more esteem to just what they're doing. The women they're on top now. They get to do this stuff. So.
And it was cool because it was kind of a throwback to Flair when he entered in '85 to, I don't remember what some baseball stadium.
Yeah.
So it's cool when they do those little throwbacks to wrestling history. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And the man Becky, she comes out last, which. She doesn't have any,
no,
and
which is
kind of cool.
She doesn't need it, though.
Yeah, it's I'm not that.
Yeah.
I don't need that. I'm not here to be a rock star. You know, I'm here to be a champion.
Yep. Yeah, I like just comparing the differences between, like the players in this. We have really Ronda Rousey being like the young upstart. Somebody's been in the company for a year. We got Becky Lynch, who's trying to prove herself as the main big deal in WWE and really make the women's championship more important than the men's championship, if you want to put it that way.
Or at least on
par. Yeah. And then you have Charlotte Flair, who's kind of like really like she's the embodiment of royalty, I guess, if you want to,
wrestling
in terms of
royalty, yeah.
And it's carrying the weight of that too as well. So everybody's got a little bit of skin in this match, and I like that.
Did you like that it was a triple threat match?
I think overall, because I think the big deal with Ronda is protecting her, making her look strong as possible. Don't give her a lot of moments to be like not moving really, or like not doing something, or just at least down like when she needs to be,
and stuff,
selling when she needs to be, and showing that power with like her punches and stuff like that. I truly always believe that when I see her punching, at least. Like that's a very unbelievable thing in wrestling,
right?
But like usually I believe it a little bit more because I'm like, well, they're an MMA person. It's a little bit harder for them to learn to not actually attack somebody.
She's got some of the best strikes in the business,
I agree. So like it's just I think she's just at that point where hopefully she'll take from this what is the accomplishment that she did in such a short period of time, with just her name recognition alone coming into WWE, and kind of really proving everybody wrong about it. Like, some people wanted to shoot down the idea that she was going to be any good at wrestling, but she got good quick. So,
and I don't blame those people for being skeptical, just because historically we've seen people come from MMA and embarrass themselves.
Have you ever seen the Steve Blackman? He's doing like personal security stuff now.
Oh yes, the bounty hunter stuff. Oh, it's beautiful.
I want to see like a Dog the Bounty Hunter, Steve Blackman Bounty Hunter.
Go.
Anyways, that's a side. But yes, MMA has always had a little bit of a trouble with like to wrestling fans, because there's always been that hostility between the two.
I think that now, like,
it's gotten
wrestlers
less.
Are training in these gyms, and everybody kind of respects each other. It's fine. It's just with MMA guys, it's hard to pull punches. It's not an easy thing to learn when you've spent your whole life throwing legitimate punches.
Yeah, it's like protect your partner versus beat the living crap out of them and win. Like,
right.
The simplicity in those two differences. But like, I think ultimately it was good for all of them to be in a triple threat, just because, I'm not going to say that the women aren't there at this point to have a singles match, because I do think that just even if there were just about any combination of these three women one-on-one in some situation, whoever you pick, it's probably going to turn out all right.
Yeah.
But it begs the question, because we haven't got to that point yet, that it's like, okay, where's the singles match for the women's championship just by itself, one-on-one, on the biggest show of the year? We're getting there. So I do think it'll happen at some point.
And honestly, I think that personally, I think this should have been a singles match.
Yeah.
I think that you had the hottest heel in Ronda, and then you had the biggest babyface in the world of wrestling in Becky.
Yeah.
And really, that's a tough spot to put Charlotte in, because she's neither of those. So the best case scenario for her is to take somebody's heat or somebody's fanfare. So I think, like, when she was in the ring especially when she was in the ring with Ronda, the crowd's like, that's when it was quiet, because it was we hate Ronda and we don't like you enough to want you to beat her.
Sure.
So I felt like really it would have been stronger if it was like this big, the good versus evil, polar opposites would have been really cool to see.
Because everybody, like, if you really take it from, like, if you took Ronda Rousey out of the picture just by itself, right, they could have easily done a Charlotte, Flair, Becky singles match WrestleMania just a few months ago.
Yeah, had they not already done that feud a bunch of times. Yeah, I agree.
And they could have gone back to that again. But really, when you have somebody like Ronda Rousey coming to WWE to make a big deal, like they're gonna go out of their way to give her that spot too as well. They did it for Lesnar. They're gonna do it for the right people. I think. And
she earned it too. Like she came in and she became the best women's wrestler on the roster in my opinion. Like the best. She's probably the best rookie in wrestling history to go from never wrestling a match. 1 year later, you're the main event of WrestleMania. Yeah. On top of that, you're the first woman. You're in the first main event that's all women.
Yeah. So it's you have one of the titles too as well.
Yeah, like, you're a champion. It's incredible.
Yeah. It's like I think there were cool moments in this match overall. I think they played off each other a lot. We saw Ronda do this a lot where she kind of jumped up on one of the other and kicked the other in the face. That was pretty cool. A lot of the throws by Ronda. That's pretty much her motif. And
she was doing a lot of the judo tosses.
There was a really cool moment right here where they had Ronda tied up, and Becky doing this nice baseball slide kick, and just
that was scary.
It was a bad landing for sure. Definitely didn't like to see that, but I think overall they did their job in competing on the biggest level possible. However, when we get to the end of everything, we get to that ending. So what did you think about that ultimately, like where it landed?
I was a little disappointed with the ending. I felt like the match had 3 to 5 minutes left of build up to like that crazy hot moment.
Sure.
I think with the way that they built up the match, the finish probably should have been Becky tapping out Ronda, but I'm not against. I actually like the idea of Becky beating her with a wrestling move because she's not a pro wrestler.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't know if I have faith in WWE to actually play that up as like, oh, she beat her with a wrestling move because they don't say wrestling. So I don't know. I think
right. They don't really make a big deal about that.
And so I think that might have it hinders it a little bit. But I loved the way that Becky responded when the match ended. She immediately like, I won, give me my belt. She's excited.
Yep.
And I really, obviously there was the shoulders were up or the 3 count was kind of iffy.
Yeah, I think it was just started too soon or something like that. As far as what I think the ref just jumped in there just to like they didn't quite get her left shoulder down was all it was.
Right.
And ultimately the only fault of this match was Corey Graves like constantly making a big deal about it, and I hope somebody was in his ear telling him stop talking about that because they didn't cut to it. I think
they showed like a replay, but they cut to the point where it was like 2 and 3, just so someone could be like, "Hey, shut up!"
Yep.
Because I was screaming at my TV like, "Shut up, Corey!" Like, why would you call attention to that? Because what you want is like this big moment for Becky. You don't want like this. Oh, did it happen question or not?
Yeah.
So
you don't want doubt. You want the Daniel Bryan like
we're
holding
trying
the 2 belts.
Exactly. We're trying to make a Stone Cold Steve Austin here. We're trying to make a big name.
Drop the confetti. Just like go with it. Like
exactly.
they're and you know what? Like you said, props to Becky just by itself, the professionalism to know not to be in that moment and get like just awkward or weird about it, and then just grabbing the belts, doing the thing that the champion would do.
Exactly.
So like, I think overall they did everything that they could do to make this the best WrestleMania I've watched in a few years. I think they've been steadily getting a little better each year. And in the last like 2 years, I would say. It'll be interesting next year because, who knows where everybody's going to be. We're going to have shakeups and we're going to have a new Fox deal in the works there too as well.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Today I heard TNT or TBS might be getting AEW. And
it sounds like it's going to be on the same night as SmackDown, so that should be really interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I heard Tuesdays, I heard Thursdays, I heard or Fridays. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Like 6:05, like they're doing like a 6:05 Eastern, something like throwback kind of thing to wrestling. But I think we got a lot of cool changes coming up. How did you feel ultimately, though, watching this WrestleMania as we kind of wrap up here?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. Like I said, I've said it a few times. It was way too long.
Yeah.
I think as far as like, it was pretty. I think it was an average wrestling show. But I think that it had a lot of things that send you home happy.
Yeah.
And a lot of like the things that you tuned in for, you got them.
Yeah.
So I was happy with that. And another thing was like, it's nice to see a WrestleMania main event that the crowd cares about.
Yeah, exactly.
So those were some things that I really appreciated.
The big thing I saw was like somebody saying, it's like they went in the back and like pulled a lever that's like, here's the good lever, like good, or like what was the description I heard? It was Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon are like the nuclear technicians with 2 keys opening a button that has like a green light on it. Good. All right. Most good conclusions. Let's go ahead. And like, that's the thing. Like I think there have been a few misses in the last few years where they didn't send the crowds home happy and everybody was just they're just stewing in their hatred online about like wrestling and WWE, and it's like, we don't want to be like that, and people don't want to be like that in general. They want to be entertained, and I felt very entertained. But yes, a 7 to 8 hour thing, too long, stranding God knows how many people in this city trying to get home. And some of those people were still there for another 2 days, potentially.
Right. That's in the rain, and it sounded like a logistics nightmare. But I think that what's great about this is that you will think back to it and remember it as like it's the WrestleMania that Kofi won the belt, which is, I believe, he's the first black wrestler to ever win a title at WrestleMania.
Yep.
And then you had the women main event WrestleMania. So it's like very feel good.
Yeah.
And I appreciate those things a lot. So
it was looking to the future, if you want to put it that way, because like WWE in the last 5-10 years has felt maybe a little rooted back in that past, trying to get people to come back and or making these big shows all over the world with our old timers. But the real truth is that they have a tremendous roster of people. They have a tremendous group of wrestlers there, people that are gonna wow us for years to come. And if some of them leave and go to other places and come back, that's the majesty of wrestling in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's the growing that comes from wrestling, which is really cool. We get to see people like become who they want to be. That's really freaking cool with wrestling.
And we get to choose. Like, what's awesome is this is one of the WrestleManias, and there's very few really that. Like there's WrestleMania 30 where the fans got to choose. Like, this is who we want, and we got what we wanted.
Yep.
So I appreciate that.
And it doesn't always have to be that way. We know that. We're aware that that you want to tell a good story, so do what is best by that story.
Yeah.
But yeah, like having feel good moments like this, it just makes you want to go like, okay, yeah, I'll go back and watch that Kofi match, or I'll go back and watch. I'm definitely gonna go watch that again. So.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of those all-time moments where you're just. I think I've mentioned it before about you're gonna have goosebumps every time you see it. So
yeah. Excuse me. If we had to recommend anything to you folks out there, definitely get yourself a subscription, watch that Kofi match. It is just truly powerful moment for wrestling and for fans all over the world. So great to see that. Great to see the women's match too as well. See what they're doing, and just showing both sides of that. We're seeing a lot of change in WWE, and hopefully that continues, and good stuff to see in the future. So
yeah, hoping so.
Yeah. So I think for that, Luke, I really want to thank you for joining us 2 days, folks. He came back.
That's right.
He really wants to be on the show. I do actually, I do appreciate it. I really do thank you for coming back and re-recording this part.
Thanks again for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And I just want to give a couple shout-outs to my boy, Alex Khalil, and my cousin, Justin Bailey, who's a director. He's a very, very talented guy. And then, of course, my girl, Jamie. So thank those three for listening and everybody else, obviously.
Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being so supportive of the podcast, things we do. And for everyone out there, feel free to go to gamesandgimmicks.com. Check out all our links to social media and Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify for the podcast. So check that out. You'll be seeing this video shortly. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, I think we're good.